that have come up because we're having a lot of people talking about it. But in that meat of what is talked about, I think there's probably about 30% truth and 70% falsehood or misconceptions about how it is being understood and applied in the workplace. So much so that I feel we may have even stepped back 10 years behind our time by talking about it this much. So I think it's a good thing, but I think the way that we're talking about some of these issues may also pull us back. So it's a bit of a waltz. And so I think it's a very valuable time to talk about it. What is the truth? What is a misconception? What is actually taking us forward, and what is actually pulling us back? So that's really why I think it's a valuable topic to talk about today.
Yeah. And mental health, it may means different things for different people, right? To me, once people have asked me, is mental health about being people who see psychiatrists, they have to take medication? So what, I mean, some people being very blunt and says mental health is something people like crazy. Is it that? So and hence it becomes really taboo, you know. So what is mental health? How do we
Yeah.
educate people?
Yeah, I think, okay, so let me just share a slide, okay? There's a lot of words there, so just bear with me, okay? This deck is really for those of you who I know we do so many conferences. Everybody wants the deck at the end of it, so don't worry too much, okay? So I just really like to highlight, okay? The beginning of wisdom is to call things by the right name. So if we are going to start a revolution of sorts, I think we really need to understand what is the name of it. Just like Lina's name is Nur Hazlina. Hetal's name is Hetal. You call me by my name. The thing that we are talking about is mental health, but the way that we all have understood it has made it become very, very confusing. And so let me go to the definition, okay? So whenever we are confused, let's go back to evidence or expert advice. And not just layman kind of a thing, okay? So even today, everything that I've taken is not my opinion. It's a lot of it is evidence-based, okay? So the let's look at the word resilience, because we talked about resilience as a topic, but we're also talking about mental health as a conversation. So let's look at it over here. American psychological, and then the rest of you, I'd like you to just try to make sense of what we're actually talking about, okay? Does it confuse you more or not? A little bit like politics in Malaysia, we're all a bit confused, right? What exactly is this that is going on? Okay, so the American Psychological Society, which is the association and one of the boards of authority boards or authoritarian boards for psychologists, yeah, defines resilience as bouncing back. Okay, so the ability to bounce back from any adversity that you have gone through, typically a stressful, very, very stressful experience. Of course, psychologists also argue with this. Although psychologists came up with it, psychologists also argue. They say, how can you bounce back? You bounce forward. You don't bounce back. Why would you want to bounce back? Okay, you know, time and space has shifted you. Why would you want to bounce back, bounce forward? So there's issues with terminology, yeah? Issues with one word or singular words that we're not happy with. Now, let's look at mental health. Mental health is defined by WHO, which I assume most of you would be quite familiar with. They are the a global organization that really has all global parties involved as a committee to determine standards with regards to health, right? Okay, so that's World Health Organization. They state, they say mental health is a state, okay, hang on, a bit boring, but just hang on for a little while. Mental health is a state of well-being in which every individual realizes his or her potential. You know, Malaysia, I think it's a very loose terminology. We should achieve our potential. Okay, so they have it here. We can cope with the normal stress of life, work productively, work fruitfully, and not only me looking after myself, I can also contribute to society. Can we see that these are two different things, or are they the same thing?
Seems like, I don't know, it seems like a different thing.
Seems like a different thing. One is like
Yeah.
very specific to a challenge and then bouncing forward, right?
Yeah.
Right? And it's a period of time whenever you have stress, you go up. The other one is like, okay, what is my potential in life and can I achieve or cannot achieve? Am I achieving that? And who knows what is potential anyway? Who knows what is potential anyway? Everybody has potential, but what is it, right? So I would like to address a couple of things here, okay? So even though World Health Organization, by the way, I understand this is recorded, so I better
No
be
worries.
careful.
worries. This is a
Uh,
safe space.
okay.
Yeah, safe space.
So World Health Organization, although they have defined it as well-being of sorts, ability to achieve your potential, contribute to society. If you scroll down the website, after mental health, they define it. When you scroll down, guess what you see?
Physical health. No?
No. Lina, you said this perfectly at the start of this conversation. What do we end up talking about? We end up talking about depression, substance abuse, anxiety.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So we have confused it even at the highest of level. Although we are
Yes.
talking about achieving potential, contributing to society, you scroll down a bit more. We have mental illness, you have anxiety disorder, substance abuse, what do you call it? Vulnerable groups, so on and so forth. So be careful, okay? And don't always go to only the experts. You really need to, let's really use our common sense over here. So as an organization, if you're the CEO of the organization, you're paying for a lot of things, or you have investors, which word would you prefer to use? I would like to ask everybody, which terminology or word would you use so that you can benefit not only the organization, but obviously the individuals as well? So, there are so many words: well-being, mental health, resilience, flourish, grit. Which word would you like to use? So as a group, I'd love to, hear from all of you.
Yeah.
What is the word that you think is a valuable word?
Yeah. Can we get some feedback from the group that with us today?
And don't worry, obviously, if experts haven't gotten it right, we don't expect anyone to get it right, lah, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
We can even get one or two of you just to.
I can see Mimala. I can see Mimala here. Would you like to try?
Yeah, what would an organization, let's say you have a company, okay? You're the CEO of the company. What name would you want to call it by?
I personally, I would call it. Between these two, I will choose resilience.
Yeah, why?
Resilience seems more positive to me.
Mm,
And resilience is like you really tahan, you really I imagine the cactus plant
right,
is resilient.
right.
Like mental health, the word itself, maybe it is a stigma by itself.
Yes, correct. We have totally confused it. And the companies that we work with, we are very clear that they are totally confused and they're confusing everyone. In a world where there's so much chaos, please don't use words that already have chaos in itself. Actually, mental health is a spectrum, okay? Mental health is like physical health, it's a spectrum. It can go all the way from illness to resilience. But the problem is that when we use that word, we don't know which part we are talking about. But I like to just understand, okay? If you are having a heart issue, you would go to the doctor. If you want to build your heart, you probably go to a coach or gym coach or I don't know, something like that. So let's be very clear about the name by which we are calling it. Aina? No? Okay. So what we'll do, I think we can move on to the next question, Lina. So I hope that that's quite clear. Just be careful, okay? Wisdom, the
Yeah,
thing starts with the word that you call it.
true. Yeah, so that relates to the words itself, and maybe you can educate, why is that such a big stigma around mental health?
Because we use it like that. We use it in such a terrible manner. We talk about it in such a terrible manner. But actually, in my personal opinion, there is no stigma.
I see. And when I read and listened to your explanations from WHO as well, it is a positive connotation actually,
Yeah.
rather than negative perceptions that people had. Yeah.
Yeah.
So really,
Actually,
what is
if I can share, yeah, I think a lot of people feel like, oh yeah, there's a stigma, there's a stigma, there's a stigma. It's not true at all. People can give you all the statistics in the world, but normally when you hear about somebody's pain, right? When you hear about somebody's struggle, you really hurt together with them because human beings have something called the mirror neuron. Let's say, for example, my hand is caught in a car and somebody closes the door. If you are not even there, but you're observing from far away, what will happen to you?
you feel the pain?
You will move, right? You'll be like, oh,
Yeah.
same thing with my handphone. Even if it's a handphone, if my handphone drops, a lot of people around me will be like, oh, I wouldn't even wish that on my enemy. It's the same thing with emotional pain. Normally, when people talk about their real struggles and their real suffering, actually, not only do people feel it immediately and probably cry, there is something called the pratfall effect. A pratfall effect. The pratfall effect is that when leaders who are competent, when they share stories of their struggles or their pain, people actually like them more. So I don't understand this notion of where the stigma is coming up from. Because when one individual talks to another individual about their real pain in a truthful manner, it is very likely that we will just be completely empathetic.
I see. Hetal, you are muted. Okay, now it's better. All right.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
So really, Hetal, what is the outcome or goal of mental health actually?
Right. So I love this image. Most psychologists, when we talk about transformation, right? So as we grow from babies till the day that we die, we're obviously going to be transforming. Right? That's the human evolution, or we can call it transformation. And so psychologists love this picture or this analogy of caterpillar to butterfly. And this is my favorite one. So I'm happy I'm happy to let anybody copy the same thing as well. I call it the butterfly effect. And we actually have become very well known for this butterfly effect. And we almost every month we're on BFM talking about this. So what is the final outcome or what is the goal of mental health? I think a lot of companies, they talk about mental health, but they don't talk about the outcome. So what is the outcome? What is the butterfly? Out of all the drama that we go through, what is the butterfly?
Yeah.
If we talk about financial health, right? What is the outcome of financial health? Financial freedom. We cannot quantify it, but financial freedom. Wonderful, Izudin. Thank you so much for chatting with us. Yes, metamorphosis. There's actually another word for it as well, but yes, metamorphosis. So for mental health, I take it the same as financial health, which is I want psychological freedom. I want the ability to be free in this part of my body, which is where most of the shackles are. I want to be able to understand how my brain works together with my soul and my body, and I want to be able to set it free from within. The outer world is so developed, right, Lina? Now, outer world is like you're getting the next biggest building, you're getting the next vaccine, you're getting the next handphone, it keeps on building and building and building. So to me, psychological freedom or psychological health is the ability to have as strong an inner world to be able to appreciate the beauty of the outer world. And there are so many business benefits for this. Companies use the word agile. Agile is actually freedom, the ability to be flexible, that you can look at the things in any way. Empowerment is also freedom, the ability to say that I'm stuck or I feel helpless or whatever, but I can rise above it. Collaboration, we are so competitive as human beings. It is an evolutionary flaw and an advantage to be competitive. We want to win. But the ability to rise above this competitive mindset into the space of collaboration means you have to be a very peaceful, secure human being. And so, the idea behind psychological freedom is something that really, really appeals to me. And I think it's something that you can align clearly with a lot of the business goals that are out there. I apologize for those of you who are leaving for prayers, yeah? So pray for us.
Yeah. Okay, Hetal, so if the goal is really like, looking at the butterfly effect is really to get your mental freedom, right? And what is the truth at the workplace? What is the truth at the workplace with respect to mental health and performance?
So I think there are some things like, okay, bear with me. Let's go one at a time, okay? Do you believe that work is good for us? Do you believe that work is a good thing for human beings?
Yep, I think we are seeing some yeses.
Yeah, work is actually where a lot of us will say that, when we were kids, we were like, oh, I have a dream. I would love to be doing this. I would love to be doing that. Actually, all of our dreams are pretty much tied to the workplace. Anyway, if any of your dreams was to marry a good-looking guy or whatever, yeah, okay, but we know we cannot rely on people to fulfill our dreams. Right? No matter how good-looking the guy is or the woman is or whatever, people will always let us down. But our dreams, not really lah. Your dream is to be a singer, Izudin. Okay, so I'm glad that you stayed back a bit longer from prayer. Okay, so the idea is that a lot of people, when they talk about mental health, they are conditioning it such that the work is not good for us or work is the place of stress. No, it can be either or, but good work has always been known to be good for people, always. And even when we retire, we're still working. Still working on something or the other. Good work is great for people. And we start with the premise that work is terrible, work is this. We have to start with the premise that good work is great for people, and human beings actually grew up having a dream. Typically, this dream is materialized in a space of work, potentially, in some kind of a space, and we call that space work. We're not talking about corporate building, whatever. Okay, so good work is good for people. Coming to the word people, let's talk about people next, okay? People, what are people? People are a function. So this is a very good one, yeah? This is a really good formula for those of you who are engineers and all, you love this. People are a function of their behavior together with the environment. Have you seen like your children, they are really misbehaved at home. Suddenly at school, they are like, wow, amazing. I remember when I was a kid, my dad came to pick me up from school because he wanted to take me for like a soccer match. I'm Singaporean, but I've been living in Malaysia for about 10 years, okay? So I'm nice. And my mom is half Malaysian, so I'm definitely nice. So when my dad came to pick me up, the teacher was like, oh my God, Hetal is such a star student. She's amazing. And my father said, who are you talking about? He literally couldn't comprehend that this little devil at home was like a superstar over here. And so most of us will know that across of our lifetime, we feel that we behave better in potentially better environments as well. Either on the external part or the environment in our mind is good, or we have created a new environment in our mind. Alif, it reminds you of your friend? Okay. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing with plants as well, right? So plants have a natural behavior. But gardeners know that even though it's got the same soil, the same water, the same sunlight, whatever, it depends on how the gardener also talks to the plant. So people are not only behavior, and organizations keep focusing on behavior, 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 behavior. They keep penalizing on behavior, but they don't penalize on environments. They don't reward teams that create a right environment. They don't reward leaders that create the right environment. They just look at behavior. And what is the percentage? What do you think is the percentage? How much of my behavior will be affected by the environment? Right? So they did a study, okay? And it's called the positive expectation study. This was done a long time ago. They got teachers to believe that a group of students compared to another group, which is equally same IQ, they got them to believe that this group has higher IQ and more potential. This group, although it's the same, but they were made to believe that this group, not much hope lah, not much hope. But the teachers, because they had a positive expectation of these kids, what do you think happened to these kids over here? They obviously ended up doing better than this, right? Just by having those expectations or those beliefs. But actually, it's my expectation that created your performance. Because I have high expectations of you, I treat you differently. I create a different environment for you.
Yes.
It's not only believing, but it's the boss's behaviors and people's behaviors because they have positive expectations. It depends on how strong one's inner beliefs are. Absolutely. And our beliefs then, like Mimala says, it contributes to the environment that we create for that person. Right? Alif is saying 9% based on environment. Yes, some of us are actually very sensitive to environment. We are more extroverted, very sensitive. And like Izudin, 30%. Some of us are a bit, we are less sensitized and affected by the external environment. But regardless, 30% is a lot. I remember when I met my nephew for the first time when he was born in a blue color, he was wrapped in a blue color cloth. And when I saw him, I hugged him and I said, oh my God, I have so many, I was just thinking, I have so many expectations. You're going to look after the family's business. My dad, my brother have, and just 4 years before that, his sister was born. in a pink color cloth, and I hugged her and I was like, oh, you are our princess, and you just have to shout one time about anything you're unhappy about, all of us are going to come rescue you. I'm a psychologist. I should know better than to say these kind of things. But that's unfortunately the kind of environment that we create because of all these biases like positive expectations. There are lots of it. So Izzuddin agreed that some bosses put high hopes on us, kind of create a scary environment. Yes, Izzuddin, I'll talk about the formula, okay? High expectations is good, but there's two more parts to make that formula better. I'll talk about it in a while. So we think of people are function of behavior and environment. Now look at the environment. You might say, what is important in an environment? In an environment, psychological safety was found by, I can share 3, but I won't share it now, okay? Google did a study. I don't really like it when organizations do a study and then it becomes published because I can't really believe in the validation of that study. But this one, all psychologists have used this Google study. Google looked at 20 teams who were very successful in Google, and they tried to find out what makes this team successful. And they only found out, they said, each team is so unique, there is no similarity. Only one thing, psychological safety. And what they found out was that these 20 teams were able to report mistakes more than any other team because they felt safe to talk about all the bad things and to correct it. So they imagine in your companies, if your teams make a lot of mistakes, what is your CEO or your boss going to do? They're definitely going to marah, right? But these teams, they had the highest rate of mistakes made, but they found out that they have the reported highest because they feel safe to do so. So in an environment, the most important thing is the ability to feel safe to talk about anything and do something about it as well. Have not only the ability to talk about criticism, but the courage to correct it as well. Okay. And lastly, this obviously drives performance. Performance, I'll just give you these 3 things. You can park it and listen, okay? Performance, there are 3 types of models. AMO is, I perform because my abilities. I think there's someone who needs to mute. No? Okay. Yeah, never mind. That's fine. And so AMO is a model that says that my performance is based on my abilities, how motivated I am internally and externally, and how many opportunities the organization gives me and I create for myself. Sometimes in organizations, we keep saying your competence must be there, your competence must be there. We give you feedback, but do we give the opportunities or not? Do we give you all these different projects or exposure to be able to develop it? Unlikely. Okay, the second thing is DCS. I can have high demands on you. This is my friend here, Izzuddin. I can have high demands on you, but I must make you feel that you are in control, and I must give you all the support that you need. DCS is a lovely model because when you have high demands, actually in organizations, you can put the highest demand on anyone. I need you, NASA, I need you to fly to the moon. Crazy, right? Like Tesla, we're going to create, we are not a governmental organization. We are a private entity and we're going to fly to the moon. The demands can be crazy, but do you give the person all the control in the world and all the support in the world to be able to do that? And this is actually the highest of the high in the world. It's like when a mother gives birth, the demands on the body are crazy. If she has good control of her body and has, done a good job preparing herself, or regardless of what is going to happen, with all the support in the world, although it is the craziest thing you can ever do to a body, guys, you have no idea. I'm not a mom. This is maybe one reason why I couldn't be. They cut you in parts that you don't want to be cut in, my dear. Right? But if you ask a mom, would you do that again? They would say yes. So high performance is not a problem, but we need to build it up so that, and it becomes the highest high in our lives. Okay, ARC is autonomy. Okay, A over here for ARC is autonomy. Am I doing this out of my free will, or did you as my boss force me? Did you invite me or did you push me in? It's the same thing, human beings, you just have to ask them rather than tell them, and they will invite themselves. R is the relatedness. So how relatable? Can I give and take as much as possible in this environment? Or am I only giving, not taking, or am I only taking, not giving? Okay.
Mm.
And lastly, it's your competence as well, which is similar to the A in AMO. Okay. So these are three models that you can look at. Ultimately, performance requires some of these things. Yeah.
So is the model, when you look at performance, are these involved interactions of these models as well?
Um, yes, there's definitely interactions, but some of us psychologists, we're very proud. Our model is our model, so we're not going to, kind of crossbreed over it.
I
But if you
see.
want to continue doing deep work on this,
Yeah.
performance is actually from what I have understood, there is no
Yeah.
formula to it. You
Yes.
can't get a formula. Izzuddin, say hi to your mom. She's hilarious. She's saying this is why she has five. This is why you have five siblings. Alif, yeah, I think you better pick a good day to talk to your wife. She'll probably expect a big dinner out of telling you of her trauma. Okay, because that's exactly what happened. So yeah,
Yeah.
performance models are very complex, Lena. Very, very complex.
Yeah. It's interesting. I I like what you talk about people. People is a function of behavior and the environment. And I think this is where in the environment where organizations have the controls to create the right environment. So coming to that, what can organizations do? What does it take to create that environment where people have that psychological safety, that they feel safe to speak up?
Yeah. Really good question, Lena. And I'd like to just really attest to what you have said. Companies spend a lot of money on developing programs, developing this, doing a lot of activities, but actually just invest a little bit in controlling your environment. Lah. Just control your environment a little bit more. I'll just share with you a little bit. Alif, fortunately not five yet, but almost. Wow. Okay.
Alif, almost.
Good job. Okay, fathers are also incredible. So the same thing, if you're thinking right now as a family or an organization, doesn't matter. The same thing applies, okay? So what can the organization do? It ensure what you really want. I think most organizations need a high level of performance and they need people to transform. If you want people to transform, let me ask all of you, um, if you want people to transform, even to lose 1 kilo, can or cannot?
It may be easy for some, it may be difficult for some.
Mostly easy or difficult? Huh? How many people have you
Difficult.
actually seen they have transformed, lost weight, and sustained it? Normally, the intention is there 31st December. By the time, next 31st December, same drama. Actually, there's a spike in gym subscription or membership on the 1st of January. There's a almost, 31st December, there'll be a huge surge already. So I think the first thing organizations really need to do is to stop covering things up. Okay, I think it is very clear. And unfortunately, a lot of times when I work with companies, they actually, please note, I'm not being biased over here. This is based on data that I have worked with organizations. The number of time they get me to coach a female leader over coach a male leader. So male leaders, yeah, they are like that lah. But female leaders who are a bit more aggressive, we cannot tolerate. But the idea is that actually we should be coaching based on behaviors which are unacceptable regardless.
Yeah.
All right, so
Yeah.
covering things up and stop excusing the person because they have been there for a very long time or because they are equally bad and equally good. Some leaders are the evilness and the goodness is the same. So what do? You get rid of the person. How to get rid of the person? Also got goodness, what can put the performance. Never mind, he killed the people. So I think we really have to make a decision on weightage. Are you weighing up your companies are talking about culture, but is that above performance or below? You really have to, you cannot lie about it. If you say culture is the most important thing, then put higher weightage. That means you must really believe it adds up to performance. Otherwise, just don't talk about it then. Otherwise, just be a typical old school organization and drive performance. Because the truth is, no matter what, human beings, when forced to perform, die, they will find a way. That's why we never did this before, because our mothers could do it, our grandfathers could do it, everybody
Yeah.
could do it.
That is something scary. I mean, when I talk from the perspective of safety or HSC, right? When human beings are being forced, you said die, they will do it, right? This is where sometimes I think in safety, when they value safety and performance, they need to start up the plan or continue the work the shortcuts happen, and this is where incidents can happen. Like you just said, when people are put under stress, they have to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and also die means offensive and defensive. So they are operating from a place of being offensive. They are hoping to eventually sabotage you or protect themselves. So it's not a place of helping the organization grow. It's a very kind of a animalistic kind of behavior. So I think organizations need to really focus on what matters the most, be clear about it, and then obviously execute from that. Easier said than done, Lina. If everybody saw this and implemented it, the whole world would be great. But there's some reason we are not doing it. So I think it's important to just find out why we are not doing it. Yeah. I think another thing that Zimbardo, who is a very famous psychologist, he says that, stretch the heroic imagination in organizations. That when we see something wrong, how do we introduce heroism? Not as don't be a hero, because our mothers always tell us that, right? Don't be a hero, okay? Don't try to be a hero, then end up your career suicide. But how do you introduce heroism in the workplace when we see things that are bad, things that are obviously of a detriment to the organization and people? How do we introduce heroism, not heroism, that's different, that's drugs. How do we introduce heroism in a way that is palatable and admired, encouraged, and accepted at all levels? So how do we train and upskill people on this? Because when we all grew up, we all wanted to be somebody, right? Superman lah, Batman lah, this lah, that lah, but we stopped doing it. So how do we do that? And I think lastly, we just really need to accept human dignity. The other day I was working with a organization and I was just really, really upset about how they were treating the poorest of performers. Because I've been a poor performer at least once or twice at least 5 times in my life. I've been a poor performer. At least 20 times I've been an excellent, exceptional performer. But let's really treat people with the highest level of dignity, knowing that we really must believe that people will go through and come through, break down and break through. So I think the most important thing is don't cover it up, weed it out. Don't need to spend so much on program. If you just take out the wrong people, no need to do so much of training. What's happening in Malaysia, I feel that there's one problem. We use too many solutions, just take out that problem. But we must have the courage to do that. But we only have to do 3 times, then everybody will learn.
Yeah. I think the courage may not be there for people to do. That's why they put in more programs. The courage to do more programs is more rather than to face the problem.
Correct. I agree. But I don't know, whether there is lack of courage, because we do it with poor performers. These are also poor performers. I think it's the lack of clarity about what poor performers actually mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's probably,
So another thing is, as this mental health is becoming more and more, how do we, from organization's perspective or company perspective, it's one of the health hazard. It's one of the hazard. Like we can talk about chemical, we can talk about ergonomic issues now, but how do we get people to talk about mental health, like one of the other risks as well?
Right. Okay, that's a really good one. And that's the one that I love the most, because forget about your bosses, forget about your organization. We don't know when they will do the right thing, although they have the best of intention. There is not one company that I've met where the leaders don't have the right, sometimes questionable, but pretty much most of the time they have empathy, right? So the only thing I think most of us can do, I'm not sure what positions all of you are at, Izudin, please don't use the desk. I'm just so devastated that some companies out there are introducing the desk, because are you looking at mental illness or are you looking at resilience? And the desk is also, it's a way of understanding what you're feeling, but your feelings can change tomorrow. Your feelings can change tomorrow.
Situational based, right?
Yeah, but once you label yourself, you have those expectations. Like I said earlier, the teacher, when she knows something, her behavior will change according to that. The same thing. That's why it's very devastating when we hear about organizations or what do you call it, like vendors that are doing a broad, everybody you do your desk and we're going to see who is the one at the bottom of the barrel. Yeah, stay away from labeling things before understanding things and having the maturity. Most of us don't have the maturity at all to be able to see how best to use these tools. These tools are meant for psychologists. They are meant they are okay. Publicly, we are still allowed to use it, but we don't have the maturity to understand what to do with it. Yeah, so let's stay away from that. Can I just share with you why I really, really don't like these assessment tools? I used to love it, by the way. That was like pretty much the first part of my career. Anyone here, do you feel that you have a learning problem, learning disability? Like you take a bit longer to learn? Anyone? Or you feel maybe like you have some problem in your life? Yeah, Tong? Okay, Tong, thank you. It's so nice to see a fellow learning disability person here. I'm so glad I never got diagnosed as a kid. I knew that there was something like, okay, I'm a bit slow. I have to keep writing before it goes into my brain. My mom is the same. Her mother is the same. I'm so glad nobody pinned me down and put me in that pigeonhole. I went on to go into National University of Singapore. Okay, I scraped through lah, okay, like basically 1 point above the ability to get in. But I wouldn't know what drugs they would give me. I wouldn't know what kind of therapy they would have put me in. I ended up being okay. In saying this, I'm not saying don't do an assessment. Go to a proper psychologist. Please don't let this happen in organizations, okay, where there are no, it's not a private place where it's confidential. You can talk about it safely. You can sit down and decide what options you want to take. Otherwise, it's like cancer. When you talk to the surgeon, what are they going to tell you? Cut it off. But there are many ways to be able to handle cancer. Right, so please be careful, yeah? Please be really, really careful about labeling and about using all these tools, pigeonhole, and then you can't come out of it.
Yeah.
Right, our brain is like, there's a part of the brain called reticular activating system. Okay, reticular, the eyes, the retina activates your whole system. So when you can see a label, and I don't mean when you see the word itself, but when you can see that somebody is something or you are something, activates the whole system. Just like, okay, I want to buy a BMW X3. Suddenly in the roads, what do I see? Everywhere there's a BMW X3. Suddenly, my sister sells masks these days. So she was shouting, like complaining to me the other day. She said, everybody also selling masks. So I said, it's only because you are selling masks that suddenly everybody's selling masks. Right? Okay. So be careful.
Is that the influence from reticular, what you mentioned just now?
RAS, reticular retina, the retina. When we see something, activates the whole body, just like nasi lemak. When I think about nasi lemak, it becomes very clear. We have a pineal gland in our brain. Sometimes we don't see it physically, but in our brain, we have seen it already. And then the whole body is like nasi lemak mas, and the body will find it. There.
True.
Okay, Izzuddin, are you trying to prevent mental health? Or are you trying to promote mental health? Huh?
Izzuddin, you can unmute as well.
Yes, you can argue with me, okay? I'll be happy with that. Yeah, some of you are just basically, Hital, can you give me an answer? Okay, is there an alternative?
I think because we did health promotion awareness at our company, so we use that desk questionnaire. So but I really don't like the question. But thanks to you that you justify why it doesn't really suit to the organization. But is there any like alternative? What Mimala said in the chatting room just now? Because I mean, for chemical, we have in Malaysia we have chemical health assessment as a pre-assessment. For ergonomic, we have ergonomic checklist for assessment. But how about the mental health? Is there any checklist that can be used for the layman? I mean, not only psychologists, but for myself, for safety officer, to implement it as part of a prevention to get any further. I mean, if like, because there is some skeptical view, if you are seeing the psychologist, there is something wrong about you. That's the perception being created towards seeing the psychologist. But as we can go further back, if there is any assessment that easy for laymen to use as a initial study.
Izzuddin,
Hetal,
yeah.
maybe if before you answer the question, Izzuddin, I would like to thank you for this question. Indeed, I believe this question represents many of the safety and health professionals out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
What happens in many companies? Many companies cannot afford to have full-fledged safety and health professionals like hygienists, doctors, for example, if I were to connect like Petronas, we have what, more than 10 doctors. We have
Yes.
more than 3 or 4 people looking at mental health. Whereas there are many companies there in Malaysia that is looking at safety and health, maybe one person. There's some
Yes.
company, they don't even have safety and health. Their HR people is also taking the role of HSC. So the question like Izzuddin is asking is, what is the common safety and health people can use? And like now, today's situations where business is even tighter,
Yes.
the issues is bigger and bigger. Company will not spend money to source out from occupational health doctors. Even
Yes.
occupational health doctors, we do not know whether occupational health doctors, what is their take on mental health? What is their approach? Which, if you say psychologists will have a different school of thoughts, we have been working with doctors. I know different doctors will have their school of thoughts.
Yes.
So this is a dilemma, and why people are asking what is the tool that they can use for a layman. It's really, really difficult.
Yes.
Not many people can have access to you.
Okay, so will the
Yeah,
doctor
it's a
will the,
privilege for us.
will the doctor give you a tool to go and diagnose yourself?
I don't think so. But it just
Alright.
for
Leave it to the professionals, I would say. Okay, so I know all of you are craving to be able to do this. So hang on for a little while. Okay, let me try to do this in the best way possible, because I know everybody's looking for answers. Everybody should get the answers. Okay, number one, what is our ultimate aim? Is it to, our ultimate aim is what? To be able to make sure that we have better teams. Yeah, Sama, I totally agree. Lina has spoken on point, absolutely on point. Yeah. Our ultimate aim is to be able to create the right environment for our organization, correct? Yeah, then use more environment-based kind of tools. Copenhagen, I will need to get a link for you guys. Copenhagen is a psychosocial assessment that you can use for your teams, and it's free of charge. Why do I want to use a tool like that compared to a DASA? Psychosocial meaning it is the psychology of the person, but also the social environment that affects ultimately the performance or the risk or whatever it is that you want to be assessing at the end of the day. Because it's not the person only. Okay, but now let's say, for example, some of you are saying, okay, I can see that a person is very distressed. I can see a person is very upset, whatever. I think the most important thing is don't use a tool. Learn to use psychological first aid to have a conversation. Okay, to say, how bad is it? You have a few questions that you can ask. Okay, how much of pain are you in? How much are you struggling? Whatever. And have a few resources that you can push the person to go and get the help that they want to take for themselves. Does that make sense? So you have to go for a psychological first aid training potentially and use that to have conversations, not shove an assessment down somebody's throat. Okay, it's like an initial conversation with a doctor. They don't tell you to go and quickly, typically they would check your BP or your heart rate just to see, how well you're doing. But normally it's a question like, how are you? How long is it going on for? Blah, blah, blah. Is it extreme? How much does it hurt? You can just put your own scale over here and just say if it's really bad, these are the resources that the organization has inside or outside. Actually, what we have been trying to do is I am totally against, for me, I have seen a psychologist myself. I have actually been seeing a psychologist for 15 years. As a psychologist, we immediately are told to see a psychologist because we deal with all kinds of people that transfer all of this energy to us and we need to clean it out. Okay, so it's called debriefing. But also for my personal life, I use a psychologist. But the best therapy for me has not been a psychologist. The best therapy for me has been to take about 21 days out and go to the jungle. Okay, so I would definitely say let the person design their own intervention as well. Don't be a hero and say, you have to do this, you have to do that. Please don't invite the person for free will, you know what I mean? Mimala, yes, you can do it one-on-one, you can do it group setting, but have you gone to the doctor and had group conversation or not? Typically, when you do the psychosocial one, okay, you do Copenhagen's assessment, right? Then you can find out which teams are actually suffering, right? When you find out that they are suffering, the tagline that I like to say all the time is, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. Okay? pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. So when I meet that team, I will always tell them like, hey, you guys seem to be in pain. Not the leader. Hey, leader, you are the problem or the nothing. Hey, you guys seem to be suffering a little bit. It could be because of many things. The context, the business may have restructured. The leader may be going through his or her own drama. Could be many things. But when we go there, we start with a conversation that is very maintaining of psychological safety. Otherwise, the next time people see me in the organization, they say, oh, that one lah, that one. But not most of the time when people see me in like Petronas or something like that, they are really happy to have a conversation because we approach it in the best way possible. And I normally would say that, yeah, even at home, I would be suffering because of this or that or whatever. I am definitely somebody who has gone through not everything, but I understand it from a place of suffering. And my assumption is that people are not broken and they will never be broken for too long. So forget about getting so hard up into the assessment part of things. I want you to know that a human being, you can use your own common sense, intuition, coupled with a bit of training. Psychological first aid there's a free training online on Coursera. It's free of charge. Maybe if you want to get a certificate, you could get it for like 40, I don't know, maybe
$50.
$50, yeah?
Yeah.
But please don't, after that, when you finish the course, you think that you're a psychologist, okay? Please. Don't go around first aiding everybody. Okay, use it to upskill yourself, ask the right questions, make sure that you understand that you're somebody who knows how to ask questions, but not necessarily more than that as well. Please share the link later on. Darling, Izzuddin, go on Coursera. Coursera, okay? We're not going to be so spoon feeding over here. Coursera.com. This is all of us needing to create our own learning motivation. Coursera.com, key in psychology.
There's an app that you can download and you can choose the program that you want to choose. You want to go, and there's a lot of free programs. And I believe that, like Hector mentioned, this is one of the free programs available.
Yes, and all of you can get together as professionals, because most of you here, you're all in health and safety. Get together in a small group, all of you like-minded, and learn from each other. That's the best way. Even for me, I don't know everything, but I'm constantly learning from the best, the very best, not only Malaysia, but especially outside of Malaysia, like Canada, New Zealand, they're doing really well.
Yeah.
So we are at 1:30. I'm not sure whether we want to go.
Rachel, we are at 1:29 now. Maybe one or two last questions that I have for you. So talking about the goal that you mentioned, the goal of mental health, and we spoke about the challenge, so moving forward, let's say we look at the safety and health professional. So what can the safety and health professionals do to help the organization create the environment?
I don't know. I don't know.
Maybe that would be some questions or inputs that the people here can what help do you need if you were to
let me share a couple of things. Okay. Leaders are typically just find out where the demands are very high. So normally a psychosocial kind of an assessment would tell you where the suffering is going on. From that suffering, you can kind of diagnose it. But I think one of the things that I really liked that I heard about is a campaign, okay? Is an invitation to say, how many of you want to set up psychological safety? Because that's the fundamental. If people can speak up, right, you're okay. If people can speak up and they feel the courage to fix it, we're okay. That's the best thing that we can do. That's the only thing, right? Like, what else is better than that? So you invite people to sign up for it. But the problem is that I think let's look at what you all can do. I think what you need to stop doing in health and safety is stop being the police or the one who creates the activities, all of that. No, you'll just facilitate only. You have to get all your people coming in and creating their own movement, not management.
Yeah, Hector, but I mean to relate with the ISO 45001, because this is a part of the psychosocial hazard. So I believe maybe I would like to know what is your perspective in integrating this psychosocial hazard towards the ISO 45001. Because I think for the organization we need to have this certification, but it's quite hard for the safety practitioner to come up with like prevention or with like suitable solution for this.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, you are looking for a certification that complements the ISO certification. Is that what you're trying to say?
What I mean is that in the ISO 45001, there is a term for psychosocial hazard, which
I
is
see,
what
okay.
so how we would like to integrate it together. I mean, to identify, because there is a need to identify the risk, there is a need to come up with the solution, or there is a need to come up with the risk control. So from your psychologist perspective, how we manage, how we can do that?
Okay, so it's very similar to culture survey or engagement survey. Psychosocial, if you use a Copenhagen-ish kind of a tool, I use Copenhagen and I combine with a couple of others. We've created our own internally developed one. We just use that. Hang on. Yeah, so we just use that and we identify which teams are suffering. Okay, we do the high risk ones, the moderate risk ones, and the low risk ones. And then from there, we begin to have conversations, like I told you earlier. But you need to be very skilled to be able to do this. So I'm happy to, I'm giving you my phone number. If you just
Need to find more about
if you need to have a bit more information. Unfortunately, this is not as easy as like, okay, step 1, 2, 3, 4. There is a real art. There's a real art to this thing, right? And sometimes, like Lena, for example, that's why I was telling you, she's very resilient. She has all these questions and she will hound me.
Yeah, I know Paulina is very good at this. So that's why I need to study and learn from her too as well.
Yes. So she's very resilient. She's very persistent. And also, I think I would love to give you an answer, but I'm not sure about the context. Depending on context could be a different thing as well. So sorry, I won't go into too much of detail. But definitely it starts from an assessment. Doesn't start from an assessment. Starts with intention, outcome. Then you decide which tools you're going to be using. After that, you start having conversations. From the conversations, normally you would move into some kind of a commitment from the team and then a maintenance or improvement. Then you come back, you give them the support again.
Okay, thank you. That's very clear. Yeah.
Okay, all right, okay. Okay, so one last thing before we go, Ken. I think let's take some personal responsibility if possible. Some of us, we are hoping to help the world, but within our own teams, our own families, we are not doing a good job. So let's start from there, because you can always experiment within and then you can always scale it up. So try this together with your teams, okay? This is called the drama triangle. This is where the drama begins, okay? It's actually called the drama triangle, yeah? We must support each other. But when we support each other, we must learn to mute the devil, meaning there are a lot of devils within us and around us, and we need to stop that devil. And lastly, we need to focus on what is the butterfly. Okay, so mute the devil and activate the butterfly. This is probably something that you can start doing with your teams, okay? So this is by Stephen Karpman, who was also, I think, a psychologist or psychotherapist or something ages ago. By the way, don't get, upset when you see 1960 or whatever. These people are 100 times better than all of us over here, young punks. They are much more, they have a lot more wisdom. They didn't have that much stress last time, right? So when they did things, they did it in a very methodological manner as well. So don't ever discount older journals. Okay, you might want to, just say, is it still relevant today? But don't ever discount it. So a few biases that happen, in organizations or in teams. The first bias, human beings, when you go for lunch, think about going for lunch. Because some of us, when we are in HSSE, we think so broadly. Actually, it's a very small phenomena, micro phenomena. Okay, the first thing that we start to complain about the company or people starts from this bias called illusion of superiority. Means I'm better than you. Okay, and a lot of companies that I work with, because they are all very pandai people, scholars, high performers, they've gone overseas study, they think they're better than everybody else. Okay, so that is the number one problem. We always think we're better than everybody else. So humility is a problem. The second thing is fundamental attribution error, meaning how do we attribute, when we talk about other people in the organization, do we talk about them as, do we attribute their problem as their behavior, or do we attribute the problem as the environment? Okay, for us, when we make mistake, we will say it's the environment that caused this. It's not our behavior. like a child, right? The child, have you seen this one? The child is painting her finger. Then the father asks her, why did you paint your fingers? You're not supposed to do that. And then they say, oh, Superman and Batman came to my ear and told me to paint my fingers. So she also got story behind her behavior. But if she sees somebody doing something, she will call the person stupid lah, this lah, that lah, but there's no story. Okay, fundamental attribution error is that we must begin to understand the story behind why people are behaving. But this comes back to the organization part. We actually understand a lot of stories, reasons why people behave the way, but we are not reading it out. So you want to add more and more and more and more assessments. Hang on for a little while. Take out first. Take out all your, you're going up a mountain. Take out all your stuff first. Then only you put a little bit more. Removing the shit is more
unwanted
than, yeah. Okay, narration bias, narration bias, meaning in our organizations, there's a lot of narration, a lot of stories that's going on about people. Okay, from where I know companies or clients that I work with, they are equally amazing and they also have some parts which are not so good. But the stories that I always hear typically, is which one? Not so good lah, because unfortunately, and you tell stories about a person which is also incomplete stories. Okay.
Is that how our brain are wired? Pick up negative stories.
Yeah. Why do we do this? Because like I said, evolutionary perspective. We not only pick up negative stories. Our boss may have praised us many times, but one time they said something bad. Normally we can remember. Not only that, we forget the good ones, and it becomes very heavy in our mind as well. So I'm just about to end over here.
Yeah.
Why do we behave like this as human beings? We behave like this because we want more support in our life. We want to be the ones that emerge to be better than others, and we want more resources and support for ourselves. That's why during lunch break, you would have the victim. They will tell the drama. Then they will only pick friends who will rescue them for lunch. So they will pick the rescuer. Then the one person, okay lah, yeah, poor thing lah, blah, blah, blah. And in the same tribe, the same community, you also have the prosecutor. Yeah lah, I think that person should be kicked out. So you have the judge, you have the jury, you have the victim all in one tribe. Then you have the us versus you mentality. Okay, so within teams, I think the most important thing is to mute the devil and to make sure we promote the butterfly. So meaning every person should become accountable by saying that, okay, as a team, we are going to take for the next 6 months, we are all going to, number one, make sure that our intention is right. Go to the source. Even if somebody has said something, go back to the source. Number 3, document these things that people are saying, and we have to reset our team up for success. What are we not allowed to say anymore, and what are the things that we need to be doing? This is the only way we can kind of grow forward. But it has to be within small teams, even your own lunch break buddies. Small little tribes, small little, what do you call it? In
Small
some companies, what do they call it? You have your own little
unit.
kingpin, you know?
Yeah.
So that's probably the end of what I wanted to say, okay? Yeah.
All right.
And
Hey,
yeah,
Phil,
we've covered a lot.
Yeah, I know. So what will be your parting message to the team here, to the people here? What can we do at least as a minimum to create that resilience at work?
What can you do? Is it as an individual for your resilience at work?
Yes. And maybe something that I think we all have control. Sometimes if we want to think, like if I were to think about creating resilience in the company, is a big role.
Yeah.
But at least how do I create resilience in me? And how do I create resilience within my own team, people who report to me? Because the environment that you mentioned, that I have control. I have control over my team on how I create the environment. I have control over myself, but I can't control my boss. I can't control the how many hundreds people in the company.
Okay, so I'll go back to the butterfly effect. Just one last parting advice. All of us have a lot of fears. That's the real problem. Okay, we have a fear of not being good enough, a fear of failure. Like, say, for example, some of your friends here, they want to be able to be really good at HSE stuff. They want to be really great at it. Okay, but they have this fear that puts them in a cocoon. But my dear friend who was asking just now, instead of fear that you might fail or fear that you are inadequate, why don't we fear that we can actually become successful? So I would like to say, right, let's keep our eye on the prize, which is the butterfly. The only way to be resilient is to make sure you are clear, you create a clear picture about success. Hang on, just give me. So be very clear about what is your picture of success. Be very clear about what you really want. That is the most important thing, and people really, really forget about. They think resilience is an action, they have to do something, they have to do this. Actually, resilience is a frame, a picture that you need to create, that you have never created before. So say, for example, I want to be the top HSC person in the world. I want to be, this HSC person who knows how to combine ISO together with psychosocial stuff. I want to be that person rather than being afraid of whether I can do this or I can't do this. And then from there, increase all of your support, because you can see the cocoon actually will die because of lack of support. It will also die because of lack of belief. That's why the cocoon normally dies. Find 100 people like Lina. You can find 100 possible ways and break through, have that psychological freedom. Until I don't find 100 ways and 100 people, I'm not going to stop, right? And just remember all the times that you were successful. Don't remember the times that you failed. All the times you were successful, what did you do? Okay, so I would say over here, this is typically what I use. Let me just show you the slide. If you all want to take this slide, that's fine. I'm feeling a bit fearful, but for the rest of my life, I want to be that person. Okay, I want to be the top HSC person in the world, or the person who has the most wisdom in HSC. Okay, now I'm clear. Expand the curiosity. Go and talk to 1 million people, like Lina. Okay, so hashtag be like Lina. I would definitely say. Lina has no fear. Lina has no fear. Nothing. And Lina does this all FOC, okay? Like she doesn't pay for all of these things, but because she has such good friends, everybody wants to support her. Lina, yeah, you're the only client that I have, that we spend so much time, but and I love it. And I love it. And you watch yourself crossing the line. A lot of us, we remember all that things that, we are failing, but remember how many times you did well. Remember. Okay, I did this well, I did that well, I did this well, I did that. It's like a jungle gym. It's not a straight monkey bar. Okay, so 10 things you would like to try. Coursera, 10 things you'd like to try. Okay, I would like to try to talk to, who is our DG, right? DG Health. One day I'd like to just touch his shoulder a bit, get some inspiration. I would like to get Lina's contact number. I'd like to get Hitel's, anything. 10 things I would like to do. Then 10 people who have already trailblazed, so I don't have to, think about everything on my own. 10 of the top people who I want to role model. Normally when we decide we want to be like somebody, we end up becoming like them as well. And lastly, all the support system that I can use, like for example, Miha is one support system. You could have many others, like, I don't know, any other support systems or network. Even after this, all of you can go into one chat group that's already one support system as well. So I think the only way is to break free from your mind, which is psychological freedom. Psychological freedom gives you psychological resilience. So in other words, in one line, you must break down in order to break through. All right, perfect.
Thank you so much, Hetal. I truly feel we have had 1 hour 10 minutes, even the talk itself, and there's a lot of things, there's a lot of different concepts, and I must say, when it comes to industrial hygiene, when we speak about chemicals, noise, it's easy, it's better that we can measure, like we know what is the dose of chemical, what is the dose of noise, even hazards such as ergonomics, we can measure, we can feel. But when it comes to mental health, when it comes to resilience, it's really something is very vague. And many people think they can talk about it, but many people also think that, we need more specialized people to come and talk to us, people like you. So thank you so much. And I like how you conclude the session. The best thing that I like is we need to have that picture of success. Sometimes, let's say we are trapped in terms of work or even personal matters. What is the freedom for us? We must have that picture of success, and then we find out how do we get there. Who are the support system? Who are the people that we can go to? What are the tools, the resources that we can get? So thank you so much. Maybe anyone who wants to ask Hetal, I can open maybe 1 or 2 questions. I know times is up, but I think this is a very important subject. 1 or 2 questions, anybody?
I would like to please ask everyone, please fill in the link, because what we will do is we will get the information and then we will share it with all of you at the end of by the end of next week. Okay, so please kindly fill up the form as a favor back to us giving you this time and space as well. But yes, any questions, please?
Any questions? And in the spirit of psychological safety, again, you know, having the safe space, any things that you have personal issues, you will not be biased. Like, we're not thinking, oh, somebody asked it's because you are having this problem or so. It is not like that. I think we're all learning, and the best way to learn is to learn from others. Anybody?
Paulina, maybe just one simple question. How
Yeah.
about, because just now Hetal did mention about the psychosocial first aid. I think this is the first time I heard about it. So is it will be compulsory or for the practitioner to have this knowledge about it? I mean, to assist, not become the hero for the issue, but to equip them with some sort of awareness on the psychosocial first aid.
Yeah, thank you, Izudin. I wouldn't think it is a compulsory, but I think this is a good opportunity for people to be equipped with this kind of knowledge. Personally, I also learned about psychological first aid recently when Petronas launched our own psychological first aid booklet. Yeah, so it's something, an eye opener for me, because that we always think that, you know, anything related psychology we can go to doctors, but I think this is something that layman common people can do. I will have a look at this. Maybe we can let's explore if somebody can learn from Coursera. But I also take note that sometimes people would like to have face-to-face or virtual training rather than learn on the go with Coursera kind of training. But I think we can explore further. But I don't think it will be a compulsory training.
Yeah. If I can add, I think it's a very valuable tool. The one on Coursera is not customized to local culture. That's what I feel. And we don't need to make it so complicated as well. So psychological first aid is meant to be a very simple thing. So don't make it too complicated. And the next thing is, actually, everybody should be equipped as much as you are equipped on physical first aid. You should be equipped on psychological first aid. Why? Because the first person that I would say that there's something wrong with me would be the person sitting next to me. I wouldn't be going to HSC. I wouldn't be going to HR. Wouldn't be going to my leader. I'd be probably talking to the person next to me, or my friend during lunch, or my spouse, or my best friend, or something like that.
Yeah. Thank you, Hetal. Thanks. Okay, one more questions before we end the session. One more. Yes, Tibashini. Hi, Tibashini. You unmute. Do you want to ask question? No. Okay. All right. Okay, Hetal, and ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for spending your lunchtime with us today. And I personally have learned a lot, Hetal, to be honest with you, though I keep listening to you, but there's a lot of things I learned today about this formula, about the butterfly effect, about the drama triangle. What's that? Yeah. So really, on behalf of MIHA, I would like to thank Hetal for sharing your experience in building, shaping resilience at work. And I would like to thank everyone for joining this session. Before you leave, yeah, please make sure that you fill out the feedback form and also the survey, a short form that Hetal has shared as well. We will share with you later the outcome of that. Yeah. So before I end, thank you once again, everyone, and I hope you will have a fruitful, enjoyable and relaxing weekend. Yeah. So have a good rewind from your hectic schedule. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Hetal. Thank you, Yana.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Everyone, take care. You have my contact details as well. Please, at the very least, connect on LinkedIn. It'd be cool to be friends for a long time. If you need any help at all, just feel free to send a text. I'm more than happy to chat if I have a bit of time, but definitely within 24 hours I'll reply. Okay. Good luck, everyone.
LinkedIn
Thank
chat.
you.
Yeah.
Bye. Thanks.